Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining me this morning for a Mindfulness Monday session. I'm your host, Leonie Mitchell-Holness. I'm the assistant head teacher here at Regent in charge of inclusion. And this morning, we're going to be talking about creating structure and routine in your homes to support your child's learning. I hope that you'll find today's session informative and it might just reinforce some of the routines and structures that you already have at home. Right, so moving on. So we're going to first look at what is structure and what is routine. And structure is all the things that we do in our homes that helps us to make our children feel safe and they feel comfortable. Now, routines help to add to that structure. So if you think about a tall building, like when they're building a tall building and they have the scaffolding on, routines are the reminders and limits you set and consistency you provide. It looks a lot like scaffolding used on tall buildings. This scaffolding provides support as the building is going up and just as your children is growing up. Similarly, when you create structure at home, you are providing support needed to help your child be successful and develop greater competence. As a result, your child's confidence will then start to grow. Eventually, this will help your child develop skills to organize and structure their lives as they move into adulthood. So it's about those structure that we create. It helps to keep our child. They feel safe, they feel secure because they understand what is coming next. And it helps for them to live a more predictable lives. Then we're going to be looking at, how do we create this structure? And it is about establishing regular routines. So as you can see, what is it that your child does in the morning? Is there a routine for the morning? Is there a routine for nighttime? And on the weekends, do you have a routine for that? It is important that you keep the routine, like, for example, your wake up times, your meal times, your snack times, your nap times at the same time every day, even on the weekends as well, because just a break in the routine and we can have a bit of a problem or issue at home with that child. But it doesn't mean that we cannot break away from routines, which I will speak about later. So as a child growing up, a child's life is mirrored with lots of changes, whether it's going to a new nursery, a new big school, a new babysitter, a friend might move away. And, everything sometimes just changes for that child. Yet, as a child, they thrive to know what is coming next. So it's not that they might find it difficult because they're having all of these changes. But as long as they know what to expect next, it means then that their lives are more predictable and we can, as parents, you won't experience some of those tantrums or the no, I don't want to, or I don't feel like to type of attitude or scenarios that we have at home. So by creating structured environment for your child, you can help them feel safe and you can help them feel secure. And it's also about establishing those family rules. And, these rules, they can go up all over your house. It can be on the fridge in the kitchen. It can be on somewhere in the bathroom as well. It could be on their closet door in their bedrooms, just to remind them of the rules, that we have these family rules, because they need to be clear and they need to be specific about what is expected of them. Like art supplies needs to stay in the dining room and they don't go in your bedroom, or you can't have TV until you finish done your homework. And these rules need to be age appropriate as well. Now, why does structure matter? And why do we structure the time? As kids and they're growing up, once you get into that habit of doing things at a certain time during the day, it becomes consistent for that child, so they know exactly what is going to happen. Um, Enacting rules and providing that for your child will enable that they have this structured time in place. So if you're creating your structure, just make sure that it's something that is visual, that I said before, and it depicts the activities that will occur and in what sequence. So now we're going to have dinner, but next after dinner you're going to have 5 minutes that you can play. Then it's about showing the transitions, and encouraging your child and promoting that independence as well. It's about the whole day. They can see how the whole day is broken down into chunks. You can have a morning routine or an after school routine, as I've said before. Adding structure will help your child to feel less anxious and have fewer meltdowns. It would also help your child to be tolerant of change, since the warnings are in place to help them be successful with the transition. Having structure will also help you when your home is well structured. You will know children will know what is expected of them and what they should be doing at all times. As a result, they will need over time, they would need less direction and instruction for them to keep following the routine, because they would have gotten into a habit of doing that. And this will, in the long run, will make things so much easier in the home for you, not just for you. And I know some of you are working parents, not just for you, but also for the child. Because if you look at school, they have a structure. So they have a timetable throughout the day that they follow. So they know when they're doing their literacy, when they're doing their music, when they have a snack break. So all of their day throughout the day at school is structured in a way. And kids know that, what's coming next, and it helps them to structure their day. So therefore the class teacher can get on with the teaching and the learning and ensuring that your children do make progress. So next we're going to look at how do you then create these routines. And I'm going to give you 4 steps that you can use to create these routines. And the first thing that you need to do is to identify the routine. So the activities and their order. Make sure that this works for you and your family, because remember, it's not just your child that the routine will affect. The routine is for the whole family. And it's always helpful to create the routines around certain times of the day, such as getting ready for bed. Sometimes we know that that's kind of one of the hardest things to get your kids ready, because they want to keep playing with their toys, or they want to finish watching this thing on their iPads. So you can structure routine for the start around crucial times of the day, for example, bedtime or meal times. The second focus is to explain the routine. Make sure your child knows the routine. And sometimes as parents, we have the responsibility to make sure that our children do what we tell them to do. But if we want the best out of our children, we need to make them part of the decision-making process into these routines, so that they feel a sense of ownership, and they will say, okay, well, I had a say in making that routine, so I'm going to have to stick to it. Simple charts with pictures can help your child remember what to do. And, sometimes as they're young, over time, they will need more time to be reminded of these routine. So don't forget to explain that routine to your child. Why are we doing this? The third step is to follow the routine. Your child may not always wish to follow the routine. And I think, a lot of the questions that came in were around this. How do I get my child to follow the routines? And is not a simple task, but your child may find it difficult. And as parents, we find it difficult to always follow, for children to always follow the routines. And it may be harder when they're tired or they're stressed, or even you as a parent, you're tired and you're stressed. But whenever possible, stick to the routine. This will help your child know what you want and do what you ask. Children, they will challenge and test any structure, any routine. They would like to push the boundaries. They want to see how far they can get. And I think a part of parenting is about us as parents thinking about what is happening, and what is happening next. Right? Because in the classroom, the teachers will always kind of preempt if they're going to change their routine, how this might affect students within the class. And they do communicate that as well. So children will push the boundaries just to test how far they can get away with breaking that routine, not having to do their homework, not have to brush their teeth when they're being asked to do that, not getting ready and up out of bed for school in the mornings. And the fourth action is to use consequences. So this is your fourth step. The fourth step is to use consequences if your child resists. And, consequences don't have to be physical. Consequences can be taking away something that the child really, really loves. Remind them that if you don't come to the dinner table right now, you will not have playtime tonight. So you cannot have routines or rules in the home without communicating those consequences to the children. You can also try rewarding. So if the child exhibits the behavior that you like and that you see or that they have to do, then you reward that. And the thing about it is that we have to be consistent with the routine and let your child know what you expect to be followed. And it's not all in all just to say, okay, we're sticking to this routine. And as you can see, you can be flexible. You can be flexible in your routine. There are times when we'll have to do away with the routine for today, but it's also important that you communicate that with the child. It's not that you're saying, okay, you're giving in to them not doing that routine, but sometimes the most memorable parts of a child's life is when their parents decide to throw the routine out the window and they do something a bit fun. So let's say, for example, when you've had a stressful day, and you might know as well when your child does have a stressful day at school. So part of that is recognizing when to be flexible with the routine. It could be the fact that, it's the weekend. So instead of going to bed at the normal time that we normally do, you're rewarding your child for being good at school this week. It could be you could stay up late to, probably, play a board game and, do something fun. But as parents, we need to have a little flexibility. And tip in mind, so when you're using structure, just because you have a routine doesn't mean you can't be flexible. And sometimes as parents, and as I said before, when you create these routines, when you create these structure, it's not just for the child, it's taken into consideration the whole family. Because if you have more than one children within the home, you will need to be able to make sure that each child have their routine that they need to follow. So it can become complex when you have to schedule your routine around more than one children. And if you're going to change the routine, let the child know that the routine is changing. There is a balance between creating structure and not creating a level of rigidity. that doesn't allow kids to explore, that doesn't allow for unexpected things to happen to you or to either your child. So having structures help your child understand what you want him or her to do, which can then lead to good behavior, which then reduces stress and anxiety on your part as a parent, but also on the part of the child. Um, I know that, I might not have said anything new. I'm just reinforcing what you as parents probably have done in trial and error. I, as a parent, have done trial and error. I've got a grown up daughter. So for her, it was a lot of routines. There were a lot of pushbacks. But as I said, you have to outline the consequences of breaking those routines. You have to be flexible. And as parents, it's about managing your time as well as helping your children to manage their time at home so that whenever they come home from school, that structure, that routine that they are so used to when they're in school, that can be carried on at home as well. And then that will reduce the level of poor behavior or misbehavior that we have in the homes. And it also reduces the stress and the anxiety on you as a parent. And everybody within the home can just cohabit because there are routines, there's structure, and there are rules that everybody follows. And now I'm going to go through, most of you sent in some questions that you wanted to answer. And I'm going to try my best to go through most of the questions within the 15 minutes that I have left. And some of these answers are from what I've experienced as a parent myself. As I just said to you, I've got a grown-up daughter, and some of the things that have worked for her. And some of it is just from me speaking with my colleagues about who have younger children on how, they deal with certain issues as they arise within the home. So the first question was how to have mindfulness at work and in our personal life. And I decided to start with this question because, first of all, you have to look after yourself, your own mental health and well-being before you can even start to look after your children's mental health and well-being. So how do you have mindfulness? It's about practicing to slowing down, doing one task at a time instead of several tasks at once. I would suggest an app called Calm, which is CALM. It will guide you through the process, and you can have short 10 minutes exercise. So that can slow you down as well. So you're able to process things, and then you are able to support your children as best as possible. The second question was, what can we do as parents to support kids in everyday routine? Now, if we're thinking about the morning routine, okay, and thinking about your children coming to school after they've gotten up, you have to make sure that they have a good night's sleep, and that includes the weekends. Add some downtime to your child's routine, time when they can just choose. So maybe on your routine, on your structure, they can just choose. They can have a choice of activities that they want to do. Have a visual schedule so that they know what is coming next. Give regular updates. So for example, if it's 10 minutes to putting on their pajamas, you remind them, Johnny, you have 10 minutes before you have to go to get your pajamas on to go to bed. And then when it gets down to 5 minutes, 2 minutes, so the child knows that in this amount of time, I have to get my pajamas on. Prep for the night before, so there's no rush to get ready in the morning. So have their uniform laid out. If you can, you have most of their packed lunch together already so that there's no rush in the morning. And it is about you as a parent getting into the positive mindset before you wake your kids. Sometimes, we as adults as well, we struggle to get out of bed some mornings, and some mornings we snooze a lot, 4 or 5 times. So that leaves us less time to get the kids out of bed because we're already running late. but make sure that you have a positive mindset before you wake up your child, because whatever you do, your actions then can just transfer onto them. And as I've said before, it's about being flexible, even when it means breaking the routine. So that's what you can do as parents to support routine, everyday routine. The third question was how to introduce routine while the child is resistant, how to make them follow the rules, especially when the child is stubborn. And you know what? At some point in time, when your parents were growing you up, they would have come up on this issue. And if your parents are still alive, maybe they will be able to give you some of the tips I'm about to give to you. And the first thing is that, and I've said this before, is let the child help to make the routine. Once children feel like they are part of what is being, the decisions that are being made, even if you've already made the decision and what you're asking them to do is just an illusion, with them thinking that they have a say in this, allow them to voice their opinions, because this will be more greater for you, because they will be taking on a more ownership, and you will get a better buy-in in from them. Kids like to be part of that decision-making process. Be realistic about time and priorities. Be clear when you explain the routine. Put the routine in writing. Stick it up on the fridge. Stick it up on their bedroom walls. Stick it up on the wall in the bathroom so that they know they're constantly being reminded. Don't forget that as children, they will also need support to learn the routine. And we do a lot of praise and encouragement. So praise the compliant behavior. So when your child does what is on the routine, praise them for doing that. You can create a reward system at home so that your children know, when I've done something, I get a reward, but also if I don't do this, there is a consequence as well for not following the routine. And what I would also say is for you to make sure that you are always flexible. And if you realize, if you don't take anything away from today's session, is the fact that even though we're establishing routines, we as parents need to have that level of flexibility as well. But remember, you're the parent, not their body. So even though you're going to be flexible, remember you are their parent and not their body. Okay? And the fourth question is how to manage the children when they try to break from the established routine. And it's quite similar to the first question, but then I'm going to explain this in a little scenario base, and it's having to do with getting your child to brush their teeth. Okay, so if your child is rebelling against part of a routine and doesn't, for example, wants to brush their teeth, try breaking that down into smaller parts. So instead of telling your child for the umpteenth time to brush their teeth, ask the child to climb on the step stool in the bathroom, right? So, to you, that might be nothing, but for them, that's a massive achievement. And you reward that behavior when they actually go into the bathroom and climb on that stool. And you go, no. So when you can thank them for listening, going into the bathroom and standing on the stool, then you can tell the child to put the toothpaste on the toothbrush and comment on how clean the job is that she's doing, and so on. So instead of just saying, go into the bathroom, go brush your teeth, you break that up into small, manageable chunks that the child is able to complete one step at a time. And before you know it, it becomes the habit that they're going into the bathroom and they're getting their toothbrush, they're standing on the stool, they're putting on the toothpaste on the toothbrush, and they're brushing their teeth. But also remind the child of the consequences if you don't follow what the routine is. And a parent asked, which is the next question, what if routines are interrupted by siblings? And as I said before, if you're a family, if you've got children, multiple children within your whole household, this is bound to happen. But if you think about it, when you set down your family rules, maybe one of your rule should include the fact that, you know, each child will have their own routine and the other child needs to be respectful of that. It is important to remember that when you're planning your routine for your child, the whole family and their needs are taken into consideration. And as I said, it goes back to having rules within the household that everyone follows. So if one sibling disrupts the other sibling's routine, the other sibling will have to know that there will be consequences for her disrupting her sister's routine or her brother's routine. And it might be taking away a playtime that she would have had later on that afternoon. Which moves on to our sixth question, which is how to create routine for a child with ADHD. And a child with attention deficit hyperactive disorder, most of the general things that I spoke about will apply, but there are some specific things that will work better for a child who's got attention disorder. And as with good habits are easy to learn, so are bad ones. So once a behavior is a habit, it requires a lot less attention to carry those out. But the thing about for an ADHD child, you need to emphasize only one habit at a time, such as putting away your toys before bedtime. So one habit, and you work on the habit that you think demands the greatest effort from you and from the child in order to build that routine. Set achievable goals. So you break down the larger blocks of time into an ADHD plan into smaller doable projects. For example, instead of setting aside an hour for general chores, select a specific manageable chore, such as feeding the family dog or any other pet that's in the home, to be followed with something more fun or just a break. And for ADHD, obviously we're talking about their attention. So you need to schedule in fitness opportunities because physical activity is beneficial for children with ADHD. So as always, try to build into your schedule any outdoor activity as possible. One thing that will help with routine for an ADHD child is to have those instructions written down. So written instructions or checklists with detailed steps are much more helpful with children with ADHD than verbal instructions because they're easier to remember. And if your child is a younger child with ADHD, they might need pictures to help them complete the tasks on the list. And children with ADHD often respond well to simple rewards, such as stars for completed activities, or older kids might choose to collect those stars for a bigger prize at the end. And it's about also for your ADHD child is allowing them free time in daily routine. And, you know, it's not just for you, both kids and adults as parents need that downtime. And the next question is, starting to do homework is always a problem with my son. How can I get my son to understand its importance and that it is his responsibility? And another parent asked, how do I get my children motivated? And doing the homework is really dependent on the age of your son. Now, make sure that there is a dedicated and consistent workspace that they can feel ownership of. Use a reward chart. And in communication with their parents, make a big deal about it, that they've completed their homework so that the teacher can make a big deal about it at home as well. As parents, we often, have this funny, inaccurate belief that our children won't care unless we twist their arms. But the simple truth is that your attempts to motivate your child are probably working against you. You can't make your child care just because you do. And that's what my mom always says to me growing up. I can want it for you, but you have to want it for yourself. In fact, you might actually get in the way of their motivation. Um, there's something wrong with the picture if you care more about your child's grade than he or she does. So if you're getting into your child's box and trying to make them care because you do, it is important to stop and ask yourself this question. What is my child's responsibility here and what is mine? If your child isn't getting his work done, your job as a parent is to hold him accountable and teach him how the real world works. In the real world, if you don't finish your work, you don't get paid. Give consequences to show your child what the result of his poor choices are. The bottom line is that you can't motivate another person to care. Your role as a parent, as a guardian, as the adult is rather to inspire and influence that child. Okay. And I realize that we're almost out of time, but I've got a couple more questions that I just want to get through. And the next question is, can students accelerate their grades if they found they're high achievers? And the answer is yes. And within our curriculum here at Regent, and within the kids' daily lessons, teachers always have and make opportunities for children to be stretched and to be challenged. And it's not just completing 10 more tasks than the other child in the class. It's actually activities that will help to stretch the children's mind, getting them to think outside the box. So yes, your child can accelerate their grades if they are high achievers. And the next question was tips for working parents about how to put routines in place for homework. And it's about having a specific time or place during the for the child to do their homework. And don't allow your child to wait until the evening to get started. It could be that they come home from school, they have a 30 minutes time to relax, have something to eat, and then they can get straight into doing their homework. And it's about limiting the distractions in the home during homework hours, like the unnecessary noise or activity or phone calls, or even turning off the TV. And it's about praising the child when they've done and completed their task. And, you can provide a reward. So saying, when you finish your homework, you can watch TV or play a game. And it's work at a certain time and then stop working on homework. So even if the child, because sometimes the child is struggling, and this is where you will need to communicate with the teacher that's saying, okay, the homework that little Johnny got home today, it was taking him way too long for him to complete. I realized he was getting frustrated. So we got up to this point and this is where we're stuck. This is where we stop. Now, this is up to the teacher to make sure that the homework is differentiated for little Johnny so that when he goes home, he's not spending all his afternoon doing homework, because that will make him just develop, for lack of a better word, apathy towards doing his homework. And the last question was how to build confidence. And it's about starting with simple activities for your child, breaking those activities down into simple, manageable chunks, ones that can demonstrate success right away. Because, as children, they can't see, what it is going to be an hour down the line. But if you break down that into 10-minute slot, and after each slot, they could see that they're making success, this will build their confidence. And then you can gradually move on to more difficult things. Offer a lot of praise and encouragement for your child, and also have rewards in place for that child. This is how we build confidence for our children when they're in school. We're always praising them. We're making sure that at every stage, that they're seeing that they're being successful when they're completing a task, because every little bit add up to that big goal that we want them to achieve in the end. I hope I've answered most of your questions, and I hope that, today's session has been not so much informative, but it just kind of reinforces what you as parents are doing at home, what we can do at school to support you in building and creating structure and routine for your child. And again, I will say to you, make sure that these are communicated to your child, what the routine is. Make sure that your child knows what the consequences are for breaking these routines or the family rules. And as adults, we have to be flexible in the routines and know when, we have to take a break, other than just kind of plodding on in the routine. And this will reduce a lot of stress and anxiety at home. Thank you so much for joining in our mindfulness session today. Have a lovely day. Thank you.